Alright, this is my submission for the Music Appreciation Final Project. I had a lot of issues with trying to actually able to view the project while I'm recording. I don't have that kind of technology with me. I wasn't able to figure it out. So, if you want, you can open up the project yourself and follow along as I talk, and I'll let you know when to change the slides. So, here we go. This is my presentation. It's called Money is the Best Musician, and it is about how I believe that corporate greed has changed the music industry and the music creative process, at least in the mainstream. Okay, first slide. I titled The Origin of Greed. So musicians started to earn money somewhere in the Middle Ages from patrons, because most of these musicians worked for the church, and patrons would come in, listen to music, and then donate however they saw fit. And this music in the church was being used for worship. These musicians worked in order to make money, but they also made music for religious reasons. Many believed that music was a way to get closer to God, so the music reflected that sentiment in a very authentic way. For a long time, it was not lucrative to be a musician unless you were a personal musician for royalty, because at least then you could be guaranteed housing and food. That's how a lot of these jobs worked back then. You'd work for royalty, and instead of giving you money, they'd let you live there. Some of the more successful musicians at the time, like Beethoven, were able to be a more freelance musician, while most others were tied to one church position. During this time, musicians made money, but they did not become rich. They only earned enough to make a living. Next slide. The beginnings of I always struggle with this word, commoditization. I hope I'm saying that right. A turning point in the commoditization of music was the creation of the player piano. We discussed this in class. It allowed people to listen to music without needing to learn to play or to find an actual musician. It was a piano that could play music using a mechanism to activate the keys and play music. Recording technology for music had existed before this, but was not commonly open to the public until years later, after the player piano had been invented and released to the public. Now that people could buy and sell music itself instead of hiring a musician, it didn't take long before people started to take advantage and make serious profits from selling this music. Music recording technologies such as the phonograph and gramophone emerged around this time as well, and it also made it easier for people to commoditize music. Next slide. The music industry arises. While the music industry technically started with the making of physical copies of music that could be bought and sold, it started to take off in the 1910s and 20s and was especially aided by the radio. The radio was a game changer for the music economy because it made music easier to access to the average person. And it also allowed people to control what music people listened to and create trends in the music industry, determining what was popular. These broadcasting companies could capitalize off the novelty of music you could listen to whenever you want. The radio also allowed more people to discover new kinds of music, and new genres such as jazz started to emerge. So basically, these companies are gaining traction as the radio is invented and are getting their creepy little hands on the music industry. Next slide is the music boom. The music industry continued to snowball its profits as better technology was invented throughout the years. The mid-20th century brought many different forms of music consumption, like record vinyls, which changed the way that music was able to be sold to people because it was so much cheaper to produce and easier for smaller companies and individuals to produce, making the music industry barrier of entrance smaller for the average person, which is a good thing. This explosion of the music industry brought about diversity, but it also created a well of money for the biggest companies to make massive amounts of money. These companies ran with the fact that almost everyone could enjoy music whenever they wanted to, and started to control the market by following trends and mass producing the type of music that was popular, not because they enjoyed the music, but because it made them a lot of money. Next slide is Music is Money. After the introduction of vinyl records and cassette tapes, and later the compact disc, Many musicians decided to sign with record labels in order to get their music out to the public, because without one, it was almost impossible for a musician to get word of their band out besides playing locally. These record labels now have control over the bands that they are working with and get a final say in what they want the band to produce. They can deny the music that they don't think will sell. Many of the most popular musicians of the time now to follow a fairly strict formula for their music enforced by the record label, turning the music from passion to profit. And then at the bottom here, right there, I included a link to a clip from the movie Bohemian Rhapsody about the band Queen. Specifically, it's the clip where they are trying to sign a record deal with Ray Foster, and he is trying to deny or change what song he wants to be released as the single. They want Bohemian Rhapsody to play, but he thinks that's not great, and then the scene plays out from there. Next slide is the music of today. Music is a large part of people's lives today, much more than it was 100 years ago. With that, there's also a lot more control and puppeteering behind the scenes in order to make music a commodity. A modern example that I think works very well would be the music of Taylor Swift. Personally, this is just me talking. Taylor is one of the biggest artists ever, having billions of listens across many different streaming services worldwide. The success has made her extremely rich. I have a problem with her music, however, and it is that I think her music is being made in a way that will optimize popularity and profits, instead of coming from a place of real musicianship. While her music may have started out from a real passion, this passion has seemed to disappear, and the only music maker here is money. A lot of her music sounds very similar to one another, following the same format and consistently making top of the charts because it was made specifically to be popular. You can hear this in her most recent album, and even a lot of her fans, like her most loyal fans of her music, say that her most recent album was just a cash grab. Next slide is a bit of a lighter tone, the bright side. The commoditization of music is not inherently a bad thing. In fact, the ability to make music a thing that is available to all people is something that is very beneficial to the cultures that spread it, because it raises awareness of all kinds of music around the world, even if there's only a few genres that are mainstream. A style of music doesn't have to be mainstream for it to be sold, it just won't be as successful as the popular music. I personally have found many genres of music and bands that I definitely would never, or that probably would have never existed if it wasn't for the economy around music. I also would definitely not be going to school for music and be enrolled in the class to even make this presentation. The final slide, kind of a wrap up, all in all. The commodification of music is not inherently a bad thing. It just brought with it a lot of corporate greed that poisoned the mainstream music making process in a way that diminished creativity and removed a lot of passion and emotion from most songs that you hear on the radio. It also brought about innumerable positive changes to society, mainly the fact that music was not such a hard thing to enjoy anymore, and anyone can do it nowadays. It also greatly reduced the barrier of entry that existed in order to become a musician, and as of right now, becoming a musician is easier than it's ever been, which I believe is a great thing. Thank you for listening to my project.